What's good, everybody? This is SJG. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the latest episode, Week 5 edition of D2 HBCU Football Matters. Um, I'm SJG. I am joined by my partner in crime, fellow Ram, recovering Ram, hearts in our chest, Chris Ferguson, aka D2K Ferg. Chris, how you feeling today, man?
I'm still recovering. It's hurt out here. But otherwise, it's all good. There's lots to talk about, so it's all
You know,
good.
pain is not new to us. But in any event, before get ready to talk about it, got a great show for you guys planned. We have some firings. People talk about hot seats all the time, but somebody's seat finally burnt through. We got that, so we'll have a little bit of perspective on that. We've also got a lot of some upsets last week, some games that kind of went some ways you didn't know. And then we've also got another great week of HBCU football ahead of us. But before we get to that, on the serious tip, first off, I want to thank everybody. And Edward, I'm sorry for the delay. I want to, on the serious tip, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the folks at Morgan State University. They experienced a tragedy on their campus on Tuesday night. Something that no students have to face, no parents just in their school and have to deal with their kids at school and deal with this type of thing. So we are, even though this is D2 HBCU Football Matters, we would be amiss if we did not, give our thoughts and prayers to Morgan State, who is actually going to be postponing their homecoming game. So thoughts and prayers are with the folks over there in East Baltimore. But with that said, we've got a great young man. Speaking of students, a student athlete who is doing big things, and man, he just had him a game that one day he'll be telling his kids and his grandkids about, and probably one of many. We've got Mr. Isaiah Freeman. He is the quarterback for the Lincoln University Lions. Isaiah, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Gotcha. Chris, I'll let you go first. Let's start. We'll talk about it. We'll just start off. Preseason all CIAA quarterback. He had a solid freshman year last year. I know I talked to you at media day. You're coming into this season. Before we get to what happened last week, coming into the season, a lot of people were very high on you, including our producer Kobe. He's very high on you guys, and you guys made a lot of strides. Just talk about your road to Lincoln University, and then getting through last year and what it was like for you.
I say my role as far as on this team and on this campus is to be a leader, more so by example. A lot of the things that the football team does, gets looked at. So I have to make sure that our players and that we're doing the right thing all the times, whether it's in the cafeteria, walking around campus, on the field, off the field. So that's more so what my job is with this team.
Gotcha. Chris, I'll let you go next.
Well, Lincoln is one of those schools that has had some struggles on the football field. And then you came in last year, went through a little bit of a quarterback carousel before they settled on you. Talk about some of the good things that are happening with your team from last year to this year.
I say for the most part, as a team, we got a lot of new guys that are buying into what we're being taught. And then off the field, we're doing all the little things right, whether it's study hall, meetings, being on time, not being late, not missing. So that when you talk about a team and you talk about winning and a winning program, and setting a standard, that's all a part of that. And last year we missed that in, whether it be meetings and you have a couple people late, So that's really what we miss. I think the players is buying into what our coach is teaching and listening and just performing on the field.
So what's one of the things that really stands out about Lincoln, in addition to what you've been able to do, is the emergence of a true wide receiver first option, which is Malachi Langley. Talk a little bit about his impact as well.
That's my guy. His story, he could tell you himself one day when he gets on here. But his story, he's overcome a lot. And I work with him very closely from the same city, small city, Chester, Pennsylvania. And we worked all summer, day in, day out, whether it was 2-3 sessions a day, we were getting after it. And like I said, this is just a true testament to the work that he put in. I take no credit. And he's a dog. He's worked for everything that he got. Malachi Langley, that's a name that the whole country needs to know, that they need to fear, a name that they need to respect. So definitely, that's just a testament to the work ethic that he's put in on and off the field.
Yeah, and I haven't checked for this week, but I know going into this week's game, he was number one in yards per game. I mean, it was a pretty awesome feat that not every season you have somebody in the CIAA that high, but it does happen. And so the fact that it's happening at Lincoln is certainly an indication of where the program is going. So just a little tidbit stat there for you.
He knows, he understands the mission day in and day out. And the surprising thing about it, when people are up that high, their head can get in the clouds. That's not his situation. He's unselfish. Last week we played Johnson C. He had one reception for, I think, 7 yards. And never kind of turned his back on the team, never got negative, stayed positive. So like I said, that's just a testament to who he is as a person as well. Not selfish at all, and willing to put everything out there for his teammates.
Yeah, and you guys are as you're in the season now, you're 2-3. As you get ready to enter the division play, just finished up. But if you look at what you guys have done so far, 1-1 the first 2 games, then you guys go into Southern Division play. Cross play. You go and take on the defending CIAA champions, and you guys take them down to the wire. You guys play Johnson C. Smith and the remnants of the hurricane, a tropical storm, another tough loss. And last week, you guys found yourself down 21-7 against Winston-Salem State. But you guys clawed through and fought back. Just when you guys were down by that big of a margin early in the game, obviously it's early, but what were you saying, and what were the things that you guys were talking about as a team to know that you guys could stay in it and keep yourselves from letting it stretch out from further than that?
For us, it was just a stay positive kind of game. We all season we've been shooting ourselves in the foot with special teams, and offensively we'll get down in the hole and fumble early on in the game, or interception early on in the game. So not get down on ourselves and just staying positive for the most part. We know what kind of team we are. We're a second team, but it'll be a little scary when we put all 4 quarters together and we come out hot, firing, and also and we're yet to get the full 4 quarters of football, and we've been in every single game. A heartbroken loss to Fayetteville State, who we plan to see again, and like I said, Johnson C, who got out on us early as well.
So I just want to say, we both are Rams, right?
Yes, sir.
You snatched the heart out of our chest with the very last play of the game. Talk us through that play. I'm very curious. I'm always interested to see people's mindsets as they're going through. You get the ball, 62 seconds left. You get down the field, and you've got that 4th down. Take us through that play and kind of what was going on through your head.
So first we had great field position. Freshman, running back, wide receivers, Zaire Tart put us in great position. He's been doing his thing all season really with special teams. He's a key player for us. our Swiss Army knife. He provides everything we really need him to do. So we don't get that field position without him. And then first down, when we get into the red zone, first down, we take our shot. I probably could have placed it a little bit higher. And then second down, we come in and we take a shot to the other side. And then it just was more of a fourth down. We called timeout. Fourth down. Malachi and Damir were like, it'll just give us opportunity. And I knew that the defender on Damir was going to play the fade heavy. So when he broke down on the comeback, he kind of tugged on him and fell. And I knew we had an opportunity. So I just, a little roll out to it. Something I've been worked on throw off my back foot that I've been worked on, hit rotation. I just, once I seen Damir open, I knew we were good.
Yeah, that was an incredible play. And maybe not everybody knows about Triplet, but, he went to Lincoln, he left and went to Towson and came back. And I think, it's just one of those things, one of those stories that you kind of just look and be like, yeah, that's people believing in the program. So it's pretty awesome to see him catch that game winner.
Yeah. I'm back home. It's kind of what the program is kind of gearing towards, keeping, the northern talent up here. North has talent. So why not keep it up here and at home?
Yeah, I gotta say, like Chris, keeping up with the game while I was at a couple other games. I saw the guys battle back and you got in position. And I didn't see the but I saw they left you like a minute and some change, and I had this uneasy feeling in my gut about it. And it just so happened that I wasn't able to watch because the stadium that I was in started filling up. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of keep up with it on the side. And I'm just like, and then because I just had to do it, I went back home and I watched the replay of it, man. And I was even sicker that I did. So, but great play by you. All of the things that everybody has said about you, coming into the season, it seemed like they kind of came into fruition for you guys in that second half. Just talk about for you as you guys are getting into the second half of play. You're going into the North where you guys are two games down, but anything could happen. We just saw last week Livingstone took down Bowie State, who's kind of been the bully in the conference for the last 6, 7, 8 years. Just talk about what you guys can do as a unit, how you can build off what you guys accomplished last week to take you into the Northern Division play and at least play spoiler, if not find yourself in Salem as well.
For us, all year, and even last year in some games, we've been beating ourselves, turning the ball over early, late, just turn the ball over, period. So, one of our mottos and something we break down on is us on 3, never them on 6. And, if we stay with the mindset, we continue to perfect ourselves and not really worry about the team that's across from us. I feel as though, we can't be beat. But like I said, it's championship football from here on out. We respect every team that we see week in and week out. We know it's a dogfight. Anybody can win any week. That Livingstone Bowie game showed us that. So, we just got to fire on all cylinders, play our game, and execute what we're being taught.
Yeah. Again, guys, we're talking with Isaiah Freeman. He is the preseason CIAA all CIAA quarterback, and he's the current player of the week. For everybody, and we'll get you out on this, pretty soon. But if anybody has any questions, be sure. We see you got your roommate is in here, man. You Malachi Langley's getting shout outs. Just talk about really what it would mean for you to really create a culture at Lincoln that really makes you guys a standout program in the CIAA, where maybe some of the next generation of guys won't have to deal with some of the stuff that you guys have had to deal with as far as folks having to prove themselves as much.
Right. I think it really starts, with the head man, Coach Turner. And, this is a couple years of work that he's put in. He recruited a lot of us. Like I said, and like our coach preaches, a lot of it starts with the big men up front. You know what I'm saying? Our defensive line is balling right now. Our offensive line is playing very good with the amount of experience that they have, which isn't a lot. We got two true freshmen up front, Seth Ulant, Elijah Pullins. Then we got Tiago Alvarez, transfer from Cal U, my roommate, my dog. They're playing big for us up front. Ventus Russell, Dante Anglin, all of my guys up front. And if I miss any, I apologize. But my guys up front are definitely playing their role and doing what they can up front. So like it starts up front and then it trickles down the line. The running backs, the receivers, then over the defense. We just have a strong core of guys that are buying in. So changing the culture really starts with the coaches because this is their work. This is their vision. But like I said, if we keep balling and, we'll reach out and send messages to the younger guys and other guys that are in the portals and stuff, definitely to come here and change culture. And to me, that means a lot. Something I've done in high school or been a part of in high school. And it's just a blessing to see that the work that you're putting in is taking off. And like I said, it's just truly a blessing and amazing to see.
You mentioned the portal. Obviously, there's been a lot of guys in the HBCU ranks that have done well and went on to the portal. Just how ingrained are you there with the culture at Lincoln, and how much does it maybe help you guys that you're not you kind of secluded from everybody else, and how much does that kind of help you guys build what you guys need to do to that type of camaraderie?
It just starts with a lot of the little things I say, and we take a lot of that personal. Preseason rankings, we've took that personal. Some of the social media things we take that personal. Mr. Ferg, some of the things he says, we take that personal. So, like I said, it's not personal, but it's personal. And something that. It's not even disrespectful. It's just what it is. Lincoln's never been good at football, and it's something that we're trying to put on the map. So we just taking everything in and trying to build off what we have right now. Like I said, week in and week out, we're our worst enemies. We beat ourselves. So every team has to tie their cleats and put their jersey on just like us. So that's kind of who we stand by.
I just want to say one thing though. So, because over the past couple of years with Lincoln, it's been kind of interesting. Like the offense has struggled for a long time to where I had to start writing about it in my columns. Just to try, I was like, okay, maybe somebody will read my column. I'm glad that somebody does. But I will say this on a positive way though. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. My friends over at D2 Football, we have a fantasy football league. Did you know that we have fantasy football for Division II?
Did not.
Yeah. So
huh? I'm on your team.
I just picked you up this week, so I need you to go out there and do some damage. Thank you. And actually, I had Malachi on my team for a couple weeks now. That's how. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. We've been trying to highlight people the players in the CIAA anyway for fantasy football, just to kind of get the word out. And Jada Byers was sort of that guy that people really paid attention to last year, whereas this year it's kind of changing a little bit. So we pay attention, and other people do pay attention, and that's how big of a audience that. Those who do really well in the CIAA get at the national level. So I just kind of wanted to point that out to you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. We appreciate
it. Again, guys, we had the pleasure to have the reigning CIAA quarterback of the week. Great young man by all accounts. I know our guy Kobe is very fond of you, and he's been talking about you for at least a year. Talking about what you're doing, and he's a Cheney guy, but he gave me some smoke about Lincoln beating WSSU, so if that means anything. So, people just like to give me smoke anyway. But I appreciate you and let you, and I appreciate just the attitude that you have. Like, you know what I mean? Like when we talk about, and I know Chris would say the same, when we talk about schools and we just kind of talk about the things that they've done historically and what they're doing now, but it's never, I think both of us never go out of our way to demean anybody or to, talk down about them. So I appreciate you guys for, understanding it, embracing it. And hey, by all means, anything you need is bulletin board material. I know WSSU won a game and they gave me smoke because of something I said. So it's all in the game. It won't hurt our feelings, but we really appreciate you for sure. Chris, any last questions or anything like that?
No, I just want to wish you good luck on the rest of the season, and I really enjoy watching Lincoln games. I mean, the games look like they are so hyped with the music and everything, and the announcers, and so I'm really looking forward to watching more Lincoln football second half of the year.
Appreciate that, yes, sir. Like I said, something that we're building here, the atmosphere, the culture, just changing it. It's, something that I came here to do, and we're doing that. So thank you, appreciate it.
We support 110%. My heart will live on after last week. Nah, man, I saw that was a hell of a throw. So congrats to you, man. And we'll be sure to check back in with you at some point in the season. You take care, my man.
Yes, sir. Blessings. Much love.
All right. That was Isaiah Freeman, quarterback of Lincoln University. And big shout out to him and everything that he did. We'll talk a little bit more about that game a little bit later. But we've got our guy, Kendrick, who's going to come and join us and talk to us because something big happened. And he was the one that kind of alerted us to it the other day. And then it came out and came to fruition. Kendrick, man, talk to us, man. We first off, welcome back. Talk to us. We'll get to what happened to your Golden Tigers a little bit later. If they've gotten the gold back on them after it got beat off of them last week. But talk to us about a former Golden Tiger coach and Coach Slater and kind of what went down this week and kind of what you've been hearing.
Yeah, so Slater didn't make it a season and a half at Clark. I had questions from the beginning about the hire there and why. And this is just, my own little monologue because there's even now that I hear people talking about, oh, well, maybe we should go and try Cummings. And I'm like, come on now. Come on. This recycling of coaches in HBCU world has to stop. It works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. Now, Clark, what y'all thought y'all was getting Slater in this picture back here when he showed up at Ski. But one of the things is Tuskegee was not a rebuild program when Coach Slater walked in the door. It was just not. What the program was, he walked in, had instant success. So it was not a rebuild program. So the question was, could he rebuild a program that I don't necessarily say needs to rebuild? I mean, when have they ever been built? I have a running joke that maybe they should put the Atlanta in front of the Clark because Atlanta University has a much more storied history in football than Clark. Now, there's a lot of debate on Facebook and Twitter about, oh, they should let him finish the season. I actually applaud Clark. I mean, if you looked at that Miles game and you saw coaches sitting down while they were getting boat raced, I mean, I talked privately about, like, have those guys just given up? So, for Clark, they sent a message. They want to win. I mean, they have a winning president. They have Miles College's old president, Dr. French, and we all know what he did for Miles. So, I mean, they want to win. They got a new AD now that I've been told from a lot of Clark faithful that they like their AD. They like what he wants to bring to the table. And they just want to win. I just don't think that Coach Slater was the right fit for them. And just personally, they need to get a homegrown guy. They need to get a homegrown guy that's tapped in with their Atlanta public schools. I've told people in their Players Association that, hey, man, y'all are getting beat with Georgia talent. One of the most talented wide receivers in SIC and D2 football sits on Tuskegee roster, but he's straight from Georgia. He's not even an hour away from Clark. Like, y'all are letting guys get away. So you got to get somebody that's plugged in, that's going to go and try to, get that Atlanta talent, get them into that school and win. And I think Clark is a giant waiting to be awakened, but Clark just wasn't the guy. Slater just wasn't the guy.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of someone that Chris and I, a situation Chris and I know very closely, and that is Johnson C. Smith, right? I mean, you talk about in the CIAA, their team in a major metro area, plenty of talent, been playing football a long time. Johnson C. Smith was in the first game for HBCU football. Clark, I think Atlanta University and Tuskegee, weren't y'all one of the first games? Was it Atlanta University and Tuskegee?
Yeah, and Atlanta University was very dominant over Tuskegee for a period until Cleve Abbott turned it around, and then they lost their program. But just historically, you would think the merger would have fared better, but it's like I think they're 30 years from a winning season. They've had a couple of 5-5 seasons. I'm gonna be honest with you, not their last coach, but the coach before last, and I hate that I didn't Google his name. That was the best I had ever seen Clark. I really felt like if anybody should have gotten that 4 years, it should have been him, because that's when I started noticing that Clark was right there. Like, hey, they started playing better. So I just feel like they've just made, I don't think they gave the other guy 2 years either. Maybe they gave him 2 years and then they fired him and then they Slater, so he made 1.5 years. So, there's a whole lot of rumors out in D2 world about who's going to be the next coach, because I'm under the belief, and I may be wrong, that you don't fire him this early if you don't already have your guy.
You're talking about Kevin Ramsey?
Yeah. I felt like Clark was trending upward up under him, and I just don't know why it was a head scratcher for me when they pulled the plug on him.
Yeah. Again, you guys are watching D2 HBCU Football Matters. We're talking about the firing of Coach Slater. So big hole there. And I go back to the Johnson C. Smith comparison because they a couple years. Again, they've got one championship in 100+ years of football in the CIAA, but they're right there in Charlotte. Beautiful view of the city, and just have never been able to put it together. They tried to hire Coach Kermit Blunt, former Winston-Salem State coach, who led WSSU to a couple of titles, and was the all-time winningest coach of WSSU history. But they tried to bring him in, but it never worked. And they've got younger. The coach they have now is doing his thing with a full allotment of scholarships, though. Let's say that we got it. When you say you got full scholarships, especially the D2 HBCU world, that's a whole different thing. But you wonder, does Clark Atlanta put the resources into being a football school?
So that was one of the announcements that Dr. French made immediately when he got there, that they were at their full allotment of scholarships now up under him. So I think that was part of the reason, like, they want to see some progress, because we know what we were prior to. Now we've given you the resources. And I think just for Slater, I think one of my things I say earlier on in the season on the SIC talk was, if Clark loses to Kentucky State, it's a long season. It was just going to be a long season for them, and they weren't able to pull that game out. I tried to give them a little bit of hope after that, because they had some guys that just wasn't there. They got the transfer quarterback, Andrew Banks. And so I thought that he was going to be a big help to him. But then when they came on the field and I saw the defensive line was still small as they were last year, I'm like, y'all didn't address that issue? And you didn't address, like, your main problem was you were just too small up front? I was like, no, right, man, they don't have it.
Well, we'll see what happens in Atlanta. There will be a lot of eyes going forward there. As we look back a little bit at last week, I know in the CIAA we had, you talk about a big loss, Chris. I think a lot of us were shocked at what happened in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Livingstone College taking down Bowie State. They had not beaten Bowie State since 2014. And so just talk about that, and talk to me first about Bowie. Let's talk about Bowie. Last year 6-4, first year under Coach Jackson. He comes back this year. They get the win against Delaware State, and hey, I'm gonna give you. You said you had your doubts. They come out and they win the Delaware State game, and people are looking at you crazy. Lose to Davenport. They come out. They took it to Shaw early on, and then we kind of started seeing that game in Bowie that things were kind of teetering a little bit, and then they went to Livingstone. They went to Salisbury, and the Blue Turf Smurfs got them.
Yep. Well, Bowie State this is part of the show that's the Playing with Your Food segment, because that's really what Bowie State's been doing for the past 2 weekends. I mean, yeah, they had to deal with the weather against St. Aug, but it's St. Aug. I mean, that's a team that's totally rebuilding, and we normally know of Bowie State as more of a reload type of school. But something just seems kind of amiss on offense. I mean, their defense is lights out, and has been that way for the most part. But the offense just seems to be really, 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 really struggling. I mean, it's just brutal right now. And so the amount of turnovers that Bowie State took on against Livingstone, and I mean, it was a slow moving train wreck. You just saw Livingstone start inching away. And I watched the fourth quarter, and you saw those touchdown receptions, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe it. The turnovers really got to them in that game. And here's the thing about Livingstone. Like, Livingstone has played like 4 quarterbacks this season already. I mean, when you talk about they're trying to figure things out, that's what they're doing. So for that game to have happened the way that it did, I mean, there's certainly just a lot of questions on where do you go from here from Bowie State. And I understand that this game coming up is a rivalry game against Virginia State. But man, I mean, I don't know. I catch a lot of heat from the Bowie State folks. So I kind of try to watch what I say when it comes to them, but I am a little concerned about Bowie State at this point. So,
hey man, say it with your chest, because you know who was saying it with their chest last week? Our guy breaking down the Bulldogs. He's been saying it with his chest for actually the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys got a chance to listen to him. Shout out to Blue to break it down the Bulldogs. It's one of those things. I mean, again, I said it last week. Chris, you and I have been through this. You have a great coach, and they go on to Division I. You hand it off, and at a certain point, there's a drop off. I mean, if you guys remember the second, and in case in point, we had Connell Maynard leave, and Coach Bulwer's first year, they were 9-2, made it to the championship game, lost to a very good Virginia State team. That next year, man, they struggled. They were 5-5, and it just so happened that the CIAA South was even worse than it's been the last couple of years. And they actually made a championship game and messed around and won it. So and this kind of happens a little bit. All we have to do is win out, and we're in Salem. Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are in that boat right now. There are 6 teams, I would say, Chris, that are in that boat that can win out and still get to Salem. So the Rams don't have a chance because they're in the same situation. They both got a 1 loss.
I'm messing. I'm messing. My hopes are not very high.
Okay. That leads us to our next segment. The Rams, Winston-Salem State. There's three teams in the CIAA South that have been out. We're 2-0 coming into the weekend. Shout out to Johnson C. Smith for handling business against Elizabeth City State, even though it was a little scarier than they liked. Fayetteville State, I guess they had an offensive explosion with 28 points against Bluefield State. I mean, I think there was a defensive touchdown in there too. But anyway, they're 3-0. And then we got the Rams. WSSU, they were up 21-7 in prime position to be over 500 for the first time after week 3 for the first time in the Massey era. And they fumbled it away in so many ways. Shout out to, Chris, we talked about the Lincoln side of this, and Lincoln showed a lot of tenacity, but there were a lot of mental mistakes here that kind of put the Rams back. And I know you and I talked about whether or not they have a chance at Salem, but just what were your thoughts going in?
Well, Winston State is an improved club from a year ago. They're starting a true freshman at quarterback, Dalen Lee. They got a new offensive coordinator. That's been a real struggle for them, and it has made a difference for them. More importantly, though, like the defense and special teams have really made some impacts, and I think they're still kind of ahead of the offense, and that has really made them very, very competitive and a team that certainly can play spoiler, if not get to the CIAA championship game. Where they've got to improve, though, they need more consistency on offense. I mean, just flat out. Lincoln actually outgained them nearly 2-1. Lincoln had over 480 yards of offense, and Winston State only had 250. And really, it was the second and the third quarter where they just sort of like pinned their ears back, and Lincoln slowly inched back into that game. If it was Winston State, in one way, you can look at it glass half full. Things have gotten better. Can they get to 500? Definitely a path for that. But if you're a Winston State fan, you're used to having much higher aspirations than just getting to 500. And so, that road really starts now. You've got some pretty important games, and the CIAA South is a much improved division over a year ago. So none of these games are going to be easy. It's going to be very interesting to watch. But they do still have some ways to go.
Yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but Livingstone College. All right. So we know against Virginia Union, they put up a fight, lost, put up a fight. And then we saw them get spanked against Virginia State, a very good Virginia State team, but it was a spanking, and then they went at home. Do you feel like they can really do you feel like they are the prime candidates for a spoiler of the year in the CIAA South, as I guess Lincoln would probably be it in the North?
Yeah, I mean, I think Livingstone certainly has some tools to work with. They seem to be a little bit faster at the wide receiver position, but skill players have never really been their issue. Their issue lately has been quarterback play. And the fact that they brought in, several quarterbacks, brand new quarterbacks that have not played at Livingstone, and each of them have sort of made an impact in one way or the other, certainly gives them an opportunity to make some real noise in terms of at least being a spoiler at a minimum. I don't think I'm the one to say that Livingstone's a contender for the South at this point. But I don't think people are going to be caught off guard by Livingstone now. And I know we don't talk a lot about defense, but they do have some really good players like Jaden Eccles, the linebacker, is probably one of the upper crust players in the CIAA. So I just think it's one of those things where you sleep on Livingstone if you want to, and they can really punish you for it.
Yeah, a lot of fight there in Salisbury. They got WSSU this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that just a little bit later. But Kendrick, we'll ask you quickly about the Benedict and Allen game. There was a lot of build up for. I'm sorry, not the Benedict and Allen. I'm getting ahead of myself. The Fort Valley State and Allen game. Fort Valley State kind of, after a close game in 2022, they kind of put the separation between the two schools. Just talk about the conclusion you drew from there. Of course, still a ways to go, and we no longer have the divisions, but talk about what we saw out of Fort Valley and kind of maybe your Allen prognoses have finally come through.
Yeah, so there was a lot of anticipation for the game, especially because we saw how Allen came back against Kentucky State, and we saw how Allen competed against Central State. One of the questions for me was for this game, I felt like this was going to be the best defensive line that Allen had faced. You know, they do a lot of talk about the offensive line has gotten better. You know, I mean, clear they have gotten better this year, and those DBs for Allen, you know, the LC Cole is the defensive coordinator over there. And so there was a lot, you know, to be questioned. And I think one of the things that I saw about this game was that at the time, Fort Valley's passing defense was like towards the bottom of the conference. I think they were 12 out of the 13. So I was really curious to see if David Wright could carve them up, but that defensive line just proved to be too much for Allen. Just too much Saturday, and they pushed Allen. I mean, David Wright, he threw a lot of interceptions, and I think also for those of us that watch SIAC football like that, there was some, you know, debate, you know, around us that cover it that was saying, you know, was Kelvin Durham really the best quarterback in the conference? You know, there was a lot of people who were pulling for David Wright, and had David Wright not have gotten hurt last year, a lot of people thought that title would be his. Well, I think that we gave Kevin Durham a lot of bulletin board material, and Bruh came back and showed like, I got that title, and this is why. I mean, he carved Allen up, carved him up real bad. I think he had 5 TDs. Like it's no debate. Like there's no debate right now. Kelvin Durham is the best quarterback in the conference.
Yeah, no debate at all right now after what we saw. Shout out to Mr. Durham. We got a great video in there while he shot from Fort Valley State. So go make sure you guys check that out. And Kendrick, so your background, it intrigues me. Talk to me, man. You know, hey, look, man, I know. How has this week been? I mean, you witnessed a de-striping in person, and what was it like? How are you doing? And more importantly, you know, how do your guys bounce back from that?
I'll say it's a blessing and a curse. I've been on this tour about why I have I won't say I'm glad they beat us the way they did, but it was time for some people to open their eyes and realize some of the things that we need to do around the program, and some of the things that we need to do to make the program to where we want it to be. Long gone are the years of Cummings and Slater's earlier years, where there were people in this conference and around the country that they were not putting resources into their programs, and we were just going in and just beating anybody how we wanted to. Now we see that there's a lot of, as I say this is Herb word, there's a lot of parity in the conference around it. So you just see our rivals, you know, when it comes down to Alabama A&M is a natural rival of Tuskegee. It goes all the way back to our first principal and their founder. And some of the things that they stood for, they had heated, you know, I mean, they had real heated moments. And so it's just a deep history that we genuinely don't like each other, but we don't let nobody else mess with them. Like, you know, they the cousins, they the up north cousins. But I meant from the very first play, that first drive Tuskegee had, it looked promising. But we also could see from that first throw that Bryson Williams was just not 100%. He was just not there. It was a lot of passes that that he would be right on the money with. They just weren't there. I don't think the team was healthy enough for a game like that, which goes back to something that I keep saying about that week 0 game. I really don't care about a SIAC CIAA crossover. I more so care about getting a week 0 game because maybe we can get a week off in there to get guys better, because since we have decided that we're going to play a lot of FCS competition, got Miles playing FCS competition back to back. You know, I'm sure they would like to have a week off in between, you know, going up in those type of challenges. So I'm really for having a week off, 10 straight weeks, and then you play upper division twice. Yeah, no, we need a week 0. So that's why I'm for a week 0. But you know, we were just broken up, man, and we went. I mean, we were still down 5 or 6 starters on offense. I talk about we start 8 freshmen and sophomores on defense, 8 of them. And that experience transfer portal field Alabama A&M team from Appalachian State all the way to Michigan to Fresno State, they showed us, what the transfer portal can do. And they proved it. I mean, it's just hands down. They were a better team. They beat us like we weren't even their weight class, and we weren't.
Beat the gold off the Golden Tigers. Look, man.
But I will say my background, because although they got 58, the record in that series is 60. And you want to know who holds the 60 piece? It's Tuskegee. It ain't Alabama.
Talk to him. Talk to him. Hey, whatever you got to do to look, man. Whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do to cope. Whatever you got to do to keep your head up.
You can sit in the background, 1974. So when y'all get over 60, then y'all come holler at me.
I heard Connell Maynard said he misspoke about the cupcake teams. He threw out Edward Waters. I think he meant to say Tuskegee.
Okay, we're gonna move ahead. We're gonna move ahead because in the interest of time. And,
oh gosh,
we'll talk about next week. We're gonna talk about this week coming up. Quickly, the big matchup of the week for sure in the SIC is Benedict versus Miles. Kendrick, give us a little bit of what your thoughts on that game and what we'll see and what you expect to happen.
Yeah, so listen, I think that game is big time money game. Oh, and I wasn't even trying to get the big screen there because we'll talk about this in a minute. But that's a big time matchup. You have Miles, and I just want to first just take my hats off to Coach Sam Shade. Clark, if you listening, I need you to listen to this right here. There were a lot of people who felt like, why is Miles hiring a high school coach? And one of the things that when I saw his pedigree, I said, well, Miles loves to recruit that Birmingham area. And from what I understand, coaches really respect him in the Birmingham area. He get a team. I go around last season saying Miles was the best 1-9 team that I had ever seen before in my life. Their defense was just solid. They just were atrocious on offense. Well, this year, this same high school coach that y'all had doubts about, he came in, he beat a FCS school, should have beat 2, should really be 5-0 going into this game. Could have very well been 5-0. This is a 1-9 team. And I'm talking about, he got a few grad transfer, but he's doing it with high school homegrown talent. And you just have to respect what the man is doing there. Now, on the other hand, you got Chennis Berry. They sit on the throne. Benedict is on the throne. They have demolished everybody they played. People talk about that game Saturday with Morehouse. They only scored 28 points. Listen, that man knew who he was playing. He knew he was playing Morehouse. You can score 10 points and Morehouse not going to catch up. So he didn't have to show no weapons against no Morehouse. So leave that man they came and did what they had to do. Now, Saturday, we're going to get to see the best offensive line, in my opinion, in the conference versus the best defensive line in the conference. There's a lot of talk about Lubert, but there's another guy that's on Benedict defensive line, and he's second in sacks in the country. I think, Luberton is first and he's second, and his name is Jayton Broughton. And when I tell you he's a dog, but we're going to get to see that older, more experienced line up front for Miles. We're going to see, that game is going to be won in the trenches. Both quarterbacks fit their system really well. Klein Peter at Miles, he's fifth in the country right now in pass efficiency. So he fits that system perfect. He's only had one interception, and it was just on him. It really wasn't on him, that interception that happened at Bama State. But anyway, he has one, and he just manages that offense. So I think we're gonna see a good heavyweight fight. For me, I'm leaning. I know we're not at peak time, but I'm leaning towards Miles, and I'm leaning towards Miles because I kind of want to make sure that we get two teams into the playoffs, and I think they might split that series. I just don't want Benedict to win both of them because I think that'll probably send Miles out of it, especially by them playing two FCS teams, and we already know how they go when you put two FCS teams on the schedule. So this game has championship implications, and it also has playoff implications. So this is going to be big time football in this ice.
Yeah, no doubt. Great point there about the two FCS games, because I think that, quickly, Chris, they're probably out because of that, right? Even if they made it to the championship game,
No, not
We saw
necessarily.
Tuskegee, not necessarily. Tuskegee didn't get in that year even though they won the 2 games. So
Yeah, we
well,
won 2 games, but we took that butt whooping in Ohio against Finley, and we need that. We need them boys back on the schedule because they did us real dirty up there. We need them.
well, we know you're on
right.
a revenge tour after you wanting Virginia State to lose too.
I do want Virginia State to lose because I know because we can't go to the playoffs, so I need Virginia State to lose because I need them boys in the Beach Bowl.
Speaking of Virginia State and the CIAA, we got a matchup this week, the first week of divisional play. We've got Bowie State reeling from the loss down in Salisbury. The Bulldogs have licked their wounds. They're back in PG County. My guy breaking down the Bulldogs. He's picked up the pieces of his life. I've been there. Interesting. Actually, Bowie turned the ball over 7 times against Livingstone on that blue turf. Winston-Salem State also turned the ball over 7 times on that blue turf last year.
Hey! I just want to say this: every season, there's like that one game where somebody plays Livingstone and they turn the ball over more than 5 times. I don't know what it is about Livingstone.
Must be those AME Zion prayers, man.
I don't know what it. I remember the year when Elizabeth City played them and they turned the ball over like 9 times against Livingstone. I don't know what it is about them.
Right. So, nevertheless, back to Virginia State and Bowie State. Last year, Chris, you and I both went to this game anticipating a heavyweight fight, and what we got was the Bulldogs stomping on the Trojans. Well, you know what? A lot of those guys are still here from last year, and right now, Virginia State's coming in. They look like the guy. I got a chance to see him. You got a chance to see him in person. They look like the guy. Bowie State, they look like they're. Do Bulldogs have tails that can go between their legs, or not really? I'm not a dog person. Anyway, the Bulldogs are in a state of shock. It's homecoming. Chris, tell me what your thoughts are on this game, and then we'll go to the alma maters looking ahead before we close out.
Oh man, we were here last year where Virginia State looked like the team, and only for Bowie State to rain utter destruction on the boys from
At
the Boys
homecoming.
At home. Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. I mean, I ended
that
up leaving
homecoming was a homegoing for VSU.
It was bad. I mean, but the one thing it just seems
and there were no woo woos either. Like, what were we doing there? Anyway, go.
Yeah, well. So Virginia State looks better. They have suffered some injuries, but they have quite a bit of depth, and we are seeing that play out for them. And Bowie State just has a lot of question marks, but Bowie is a hard team to beat at home, and that's kind of what you kind of face here. And it don't matter where these two teams are; they just really seem to show out when they come across this game. So, even though we witnessed what we witnessed last week against Livingstone, Bowie State, I'm pretty sure, has this game circled on the calendar. If you're Virginia State, you've consistently asked, why aren't we in the top 25? Well, this surely is a way to really put your stamp that you also deserve to be in the top 25 in the country. So should be a really fun game. I'm really looking forward to it. On Saturday, but I would expect a very entertaining game and nothing less.
Well. I actually have the lines from FCS Sportsbook, and Virginia State is a 9-point favorite. Chris, how what do you think about that 9-point favorite? That sound about right to you?
Sounds about right to me. Yeah.
Okay. Kendrick, Benedict is a 7.5-point favorite over Miles. So that's close for Benedict.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Kendrick will go to your alma mater. They get a chance to get their face back. I mean, if there's anybody that you want to see right now after you've gotten your tail kicked, it's Morehouse College. So with that in mind, what are your thoughts about this game? Are you guys going to play with your food this week? Talk to us.
Yeah, so I want to just reference 1966 for a second because I need that Tuskegee Golden Tiger team to come up. 1966 is a Friday night. You just got paid. Tuskegee faithful load up. They go to Columbus and they face off against this Morehouse team that feel like they gonna beat Tuskegee down. And them boys get blanked 93-0. And that's what I'm expecting from Tuskegee. We got to get our face back. Now we might not score 33. But I needed to be 35-10, 35-6, something like that. You boys, y'all got to go out there, recover, come back and set up because we're about to get into the rough part of the schedule. We've been struggling, straining, getting by. But we finna face some teams now that they really want to come in and beat us. They feel like we're wounded. They feel like they got Tuskegee on the ropes. I don't care how bad they get us on the ropes. Tuskegee, we got to come out in that game and we got to get prepared. And we can't play with Morehouse. Like, what is that series? 65-15, whatever the series is. It's not even a rivalry anymore. Like, we've beaten Morehouse so bad that their fans won't even travel. They fans start traveling in Columbus. They're going to have 150 people over there on their side and just embarrass them boys and send them on about their way so we can get focused on Tuskegee business because we got that Miles team coming up, not to overlook who we play, Edward Waters, Savannah State, Clark, whatever. But we got Miles coming up down the line. So I want to see Tuskegee get themselves locked up. We get a lot of guys back. We back healthy. Now it's time for that Tuskegee that showed up in that Fort Valley game. I need for them, like it's midway the season, put away that little foolishness that we doing. And let's win the game. Let's go back and play Tuskegee brand of football.
Well, looking at I'll just give you the line. I'll give you the line. I didn't make this up. You guys are favored by a whopping total of 12 points.
We'll take it.
Gotcha.
We'll take it.
So, we're talking about, rivalries, we got the saying of WSSU versus everybody. WSSU doesn't really have a rival, but, I think this is the closest team that's to us that we play, which is Livingstone College. And over the years, it hasn't been a rivalry. I ran the numbers today. Saturday will be the 58th game between the two of them. Livingstone has a total of 12 wins, 1 tie, and 44 WSSU wins, I believe, if my math. So, but they did win last year. So I went to the press conference and I asked the guys, what's the vibe as far as this? We know it's a great basketball rivalry. Football, it hasn't really been a contest. But here's what they had to say on Tuesday about the matching up against them.
Sending a message. Like we say, we still control our own destiny with our conference opponents coming up ahead. All being South games. Let's start off our first South game by sending a message. As Coach alluded to earlier, extremely frustrated about the way the game ended last week. With that, I think the whole team can feel it. Like you said, we had a real productive practice this morning, and that's definitely going to translate come Saturday. So Saturday, you'll see a real intense team that's trying to send a message.
Like John said, last year they won, so they're gonna come in with some confidence, and they knocked out Bowie last week, so they're coming in with some confidence as well. So we just gotta play a complete game as well. So we're not gonna worry about the outside noise. We're just gonna worry about ourselves this week and focus on becoming 1-0 in subdivision play.
Yeah, and the outside noise will be me and Chris. We want blood as well. But do we expect it? Chris, tell me what you think. I mean, last year, I think this is a much better WSSU team than last year. And Livingstone's got to win against Bowie. The game is going to be played at Bowman Gray Stadium. What are your thoughts on this game between the Rams and the Blue Bears, the first responder classic, which in a lot of ways is ironic. But anyway.
Well, first of all, Winston State has nobody to blame themselves after last week. You got 95 yards worth of penalties, including, what happened that gave Lincoln really good field position on their last drive, unsportsmanlike penalty. So, if you want to win this game, you've got to cut down on that first and foremost. And Livingstone, Winston games have been chipping in the past. I wouldn't expect anything less, but cooler heads do have to prevail here. The other thing I kind of mentioned here is, Winston State tends to play really well at home. They don't play as well on the road, but at home they tend to be pretty hard to beat. So what would I say to that is Livingstone certainly going to have to come to play. But if you're Winston State, I think you do control your own destiny here, and that certainly start with better play on offense. Much better play on offense, more consistency. We've seen where RJ Mobley as a wide receiver has been really dangerous, one of the top receivers in the conference. And when they've attempted long passes, they don't tend to connect on those. But when they do, he's been wide open. So things like that. We saw Asa Barnes in the running game getting going really well. So there's a lot of things to like going into this game if you're Winston State. But again, I caution you that do not sleep on Livingstone because they will sneak up on you and they will make you pay. The one thing I'm really curious to see with Livingstone is how mobile the quarterbacks are. That seems to have really given Winston some fits when the quarterback can be mobile, sometimes take off and run. So really, really, really interesting to see how this plays out on Saturday. But where my money is on this game. This is a revenge game. That's what this is. After that long streak and the way that it ended last year, this is a revenge game.
Yeah, as the kids say, and coach and the coach over the North Carolina Central said they got to get their lick back. But it will be a very intense game. WSSU is actually an 18.5 point favorite. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Maybe a little under. I don't know if I'm really to give them that much. Although I've been very pleased with the fact that Winston can get over 20 points in a game. I think 20 points in general in the CIAA has been kind of the deciding factor between winning and losing in a lot of cases. And I think they can certainly make it a double-digit win. And then I see this comment in the chat about, most college teams play better at home than they do on the road. And that might be true, but then you've got somebody like a Virginia Union who's won like 12 straight road games or something like that. The game that they lost last year was at home, the playoffs, but they went on the road. I mean, those teams went on the road. And Winston State struggles on the road. So that's why I kind of dropped that in there because they seem to be kind of night and day between being on the road and being at home.
Yeah, and Kobe, you can go ahead and box me. For Winston-Salem State, it's definitely a game where, like you said, you talk about the struggles on the road. That was the one thing for me for them last week. I felt like, at home they were good, but I was wondering how they would respond on the road. And for a good part of the game, they were okay. But, obviously, a game situation where they can't throw the ball now in spurts at times. Actually, Coach Massey kind of mentioned me in the press conference about me saying how they've been predictable, and they're not this year. So they haven't been, but we'll see what they have. But if you're going to win a difference between a good team and a championship team is winning on the road. So for WSSU, you got to get past the first hurdle, which is Livingstone, and then those two teams that are in front of you in the CIAA South, you got to play both of those teams at home. Now, Johnson C. Smith, typically it doesn't matter where you play them; that's usually a win. But as we saw last year at Livingstone, it's not always the case. And Johnson C. Smith has a full allotment of scholarships, and they're playing. They're just finding ways to win. So that's no longer it. And then of course you got to go over to Fayetteville and. That's been a task the last couple of years as well. So, I think for the Rams, if they come out and play a disciplined game, they should win this game at home. Put my confidence out there. I don't do it that often, but I think it's right there. So, Back to the SIAC. Let's see, and we'll just look at a couple of these games before we finish out here. Well, I'll open the floor. Kendrick, give me one more game you want to kind of delve into, and then Chris, you, and then we'll close.
Yeah, so I think that that Albany State matchup is who's going to intrigue me the most. We're going to learn a lot. I'll be honest, I really had just written Albany State off, but they've been racking up wins. They haven't been pretty wins, but neither have Tuskegee wins been pretty. But Albany State been quietly, just quietly staying in the fight. I thought they were dead last week, and so they get Central State. Now, I know Central State has only won one game, and they've only beaten FCS school, and that's Mississippi Valley. But that Central State team, they got dogs. You talk about Dominique Davis, you talking about Jaleel Lenore, like on that defense. I'm not quite sure Albany State has faced in the SIC teams that they faced so far. I don't think they faced one that has a defense as decent as Central State's defense. So I think this is one. I think Central State is just fighting to try to make sure that their season they don't have a losing season, because with the team that they have, they shouldn't have a losing record. Like, they just haven't figured out how to close games. Now, last week they got demolished by Miles, but that goes back to that tier that we talked about in the SIC. You got Benedict here, and I told you we had 3 teams over here that was trying to prove that they could challenge Benedict. Well, right now, Miles has come in and said, we dominated Clark, who we supposed to dominate. Now we dominate Central State, setting themselves to be like that team that probably can and will challenge Benedict Saturday. But, the game is played on the field. But Central State in that middle tier, even though like they can't seem to get a win, I feel like this is the week that either their season is just over with, or is they still have some fight left in them. So I think that's going to be an interesting game, and we will see like whether Albany State is for real and maybe could have a backway shot to get into the conference title, or they just beat the team that they should beat and still gonna fall like middle of the pack, bottom middle of the pack.
Yeah, the pack is rather large in the SIC, where you've got 15 teams. So you literally have a low tier, mid tier, and an upper tier of 3 different teams. So Chris, and just as I go through, I'll make sure I give you these lines as well for the SIC and other games. Allen is a 9-point favorite over Clark Atlanta. I think that's way too low. Let's see. We've got Johnson C. We'll go into that. Edward Waters is a 3.5-point favorite over Lane. We've also got. Let's see what else we've got. Yeah,
I don't know about the Edward Waters game. I'm gonna give Lane win number 2.
Oh, okay. Chris, in the CIAA, we've also got. Well, give me your other game, Chris, and then we'll close up.
The other game I'm looking at is Lincoln and Bluefield State. Just to see how Lincoln responds on the road. Bluefield has had some struggles. Certainly, they're down to another quarterback last week, who also won Player of the Week honors as a rookie. So really interesting just to see kind of what they pull together against Lincoln. I think that's going to be an entertaining game to watch. And shout out to Bluefield State. The radio announcers are pretty interesting cast as well. So another good game I think is going to happen as well.
Yeah, great stuff there for sure. Other games that we have, Virginia Union is a 22.5-point favorite over Elizabeth City State. What do you think, Chris?
I don't know. That might be a little closer than that. Maybe a couple points closer.
Okay, Johnson C. Smith is a 3-point favorite over Shaw.
Yes, I like that one. Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Shaw. They had Miss India. She was the first woman kicker in the CIAA and in Shaw history, and the first to score. So big shout out to her. Also, we had Allen by 9. Oh, yeah, we talked about that over Clark Atlanta. Albany State is a 24-point favorite as well. And also, we got, Kentucky State is playing Grand Valley State for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's because Grand Valley, like, nobody wants to schedule them. Like, I mean, they're probably paying a guarantee for that game. That's going to be brutal.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where Kentucky State came from.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Like that's where they came from. And can I throw this in here? I don't know why we not have the Valdosta State in West Florida right now. I mean, it's two teams that I kick out the conference. Our commission. It's two teams that I'll say peace to today to go after them if that were the case. But hey, that's just my opinion.
Well, here we go. Fort Valley State, 12.5-point favorite over Savannah State. Not D2, but we'll throw them in there, give them some love. South Carolina State is a 43.5-point favorite over VUL. So there is that. But yeah, man, we have gone a little bit over, so we're not going to hold you guys anymore. I want to thank everybody for turning into D2 HBCU Football Matters. Please, guys, make sure that we appreciate everybody that commented. Please make sure that you hit that like button, share this out so we can continue to grow and grow this community. Shout out to the folks that's on here all the time. Shout out to Edward. You've been on here. You were waiting for us to come on, so we applaud you, my man. Breaking down the Bulldogs, you as well. Who's that Livingstone? Who? Let me see. Who is this? WSS? Who? Stop playing, Mr. Gillespie. Stop playing. You know exactly who. Anyway, that is our show for this week, guys. Make sure that you go out and talk about, tweet about, and support your favorite D2 HBCU football programs. And we want to remind everybody that D2 HBCU football matters.